Okay, calling to order. Approval of agenda and seconded. Any changes to the agenda before I call the question? All in favor of the agenda, passed unanimously. Okay. First up, we have Daniel. First up, second up.
So thank you, Mayor and Council. I have on the agenda today bylaw 439 and 440 for consideration of adoption. So these are the bylaws to amend the official community plan and the land use bylaw for the Grafton Lake Lands development. So this came to a public hearing before you in March, and you gave third reading to these bylaws in April. So what's before you is the bylaws for adoption, along with the Section 219 covenant regarding the voluntary contribution from the project to be registered on the title of the subject lands. So the report has a brief overview of what the covenant would do. So it talks about the various amenities that would be provided and talks about the phasing of development and outlines for the future work that will be done, including housing agreements for the affordable housing needs. So I don't have a whole lot to add to that. I've gotten some questions by email, and so I'm happy to answer any questions people have on them.
Daniel, just sorry, just a point of clarification. The recommendation we have on the agenda indicates bylaw number 439 be considered and finally adopted a third time.
I would strike a third time.
Yeah.
I'd say it would be finally adopted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
We just need to adopt it once.
just check.
Yeah.
And I wonder how many times we finally adopted.
How much time do you have?
Yeah, let's do it again. So, questions for Daniel?
I have a couple of ones that
Sure.
partly just probably to refresh my mind.
Yeah.
I see that there's a couple of changes from rural to ALR and from ALR to service commercial. I thought that Agricultural Land Commission didn't accept those changes. Are they, did changes from rural to ALR happen?
So the ALR rejected the change. Let me just find
Oh, okay.
bylaws here. So what was done at sort of this spring was changing it to leave things as ALR. So we made changes to the bylaw to ensure. So where are you looking to?
I think
bylaw itself.
I'm looking in the bylaw itself, and I'm pretty sure that it's like, sorry, I didn't mark down all these things because I thought,
Just a sec, I got it.
okay.
I printed it.
The point number 4, page 1 of 4.
Clause 3 and 4
Oh, yeah, and 3
on
as well.
bylaw 439.
Bylaw.
Yeah, I didn't see it in any maps, so I wondered if that was,
Sure.
if I'd missed something or if they were just left in.
Basically, it's taking it back, because the rezoning application assumed the ALR stuff, and now that the ALR stuff hasn't happened,
Right,
it'd have to be pulled out and taken back to the way the ALR originally
But
was.
we never passed bylaw 439.
yeah, that's what
Yeah.
confused me,
And
because,
in our we authorized taking it out of the map, but I'm wondering if there's an oops, and we should have taken it out of the body of the bylaw.
yeah, because I don't find it in any of the maps.
Mhm.
Because at our meeting of February 13th,
And I apologize, I didn't find it
No.
earlier, I just,
Yeah. Thank you for that.
So you're saying
No.
both clause 3 and 4?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Should be
Yeah, so
struck.
those are the changes that should have been struck at the February 13th meeting when we rescinded and regave readings. And it seems like they've crept back in.
okay,
Because, yeah, essentially the OCP changes just to that second point where stuff is being changed from rural and rural residential to the CD, to the comprehensive development area.
that makes sense, because
Yeah.
that's,
And that's what's reflected
that's
on
in the maps, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would move the amendment that we strike these sections 3 and 4 from page 7 of 32 of
no,
the,
from page 1 of the bylaw.
page 1 of the bylaw 439.
Daniel, the version that was given third reading
Yeah.
at St. Allen's Trust, was it the version with these sections removed?
Yes. Well, so I would have said that these are the changes that were made at February meeting. And they're just erroneously left in.
The February meeting, we said to amend the bylaw map to remove the ALR from any proposed changes. We didn't say take out, I say, I think there's a big oops.
I think we didn't take out the text.
So the text change was not made to correspond with the map
We
change?
didn't
Is
direct
that
staff
what
to
it
make
is?
the change. We only directed staff to change the map according to what Councilor Morris has just said.
The bylaw that was added in third, that was a third reading at March 28th had clause 3 and 4 in it.
Now, is there an order of precedence on conflicting stuff with bylaws? As to what overrules the other, the way you have in most contract documents, you say, in event of conflict, this
Well,
overrules that.
provincial legislation overrules
Yeah.
any municipal legislation.
No, I mean, within the bylaw itself. If we have maps, are maps more important than text, or text more important than maps? Doesn't,
The same, I think, aren't they?
Yeah.
and if there's a conflict between the two,
I guess the question is, does it really matter?
That's what I'm wondering,
Yeah.
is if we go ahead and adopt the
Because of
bylaws as
provincial
is today,
legislation.
and then we just do a housekeeping.
Cleaning up
Yeah.
later.
I can't see it impacting the rezoning itself,
No.
No,
yeah.
The intent is correct.
Yeah, and it's just,
Right.
it's a minor mistake that can be fixed.
yeah,
But is there any issue with, we can't just take them out now because we're changing
Yeah.
the
No,
use?
I would suggest
Yeah.
adopting the
Because-
bylaw
Yeah.
as it stands with a separate resolution to bring the bylaws back for housekeeping,
Yeah.
to make that change at a future date.
Yeah.
okay. I move that that staff be directed to bring this bylaw back to a future council meeting.
Can I suggest first we adopt the bylaws?
Oh, sure.
And then do the
Okay.
change, yeah.
yeah.
All right. That was my big question.
Thank you, Sue.
Okay,
So now we're on to the covenant.
council, oh,
I have one more then.
yes, sorry, go ahead.
In the land use bylaw, area 1 in the permitted uses, and I'm right on the very top there, 4.31.1 permitted uses. Area 1 is the part that's going to be designated Art Renaissance Nature Preserve,
Yeah.
but it has agriculture and horticulture as permitted uses, and I'm wondering if you could explain that.
Sure, so parts of Area 1 are in the ALR. So the province said we have to allow them to allow
Thank you.
agriculture.
Very good. Because I see it's clearly laid out in the covenant what is what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I have another question.
Yes, go, carry on, sorry.
Okay. The nature reserve, area 1,
Yeah.
and I'm looking at the map at the very bottom, the last page.
Okay.
I think it's the last page. There. Oops, it's not. Sorry. 1 second. Yes, what page is that? The rezoning, the land use bylaw schedule that shows the dotted areas and all those little areas. So the nature preserve, the sort of wildlife corridors that have been spoken of, they don't go through Area 3. And I'm at Grafton Gardens, and yet so I'm just wondering how we would manage that. Grafton Gardens would sort of interrupt the wildlife corridor and the connectivity there. Okay, here we go. This is page 18 of 32 for those doing this. And so Area 1 comes down from the hillside above, down, hits Area 3, which is the little part at what's now called the Grafton Commons or something, the gardening area, and across beside, well, you can see it on that. And then it connects. So there's a little gap in the connectivity there with the nature reserve, where in previous discussions, we talked about putting toad, ways for frogs and toads to get down to the wetland to breed and things like that, under the multi-use pathway, maybe the road. Through Grafton Gardens, Area 3, how will the wildlife connectivity be managed there? Or is that something we can negotiate later? I'm assuming that it is, but now's the time to ask the question.
Sure. So there's a few places where the creeks and the waterways come down through the development areas. So we're saying with Area 7, for example, has some areas where creeks are coming down through it. They're not placed in Area 1, they're placed in the general Area 7. This is the work that the applicant has done, like doing the riparian assessments for the streams, identify areas that are not to be developed that are adjacent to the streams.
Right.
Even though they're not part of Area 1, so they would be protected through covenants rather than through land dedicated to municipalities.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the riparian setbacks, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so I can't recall offhand all the
Right,
various
okay.
facts, but.
Thank you, that's good enough for me. Okay.
Okay, so
It's my turn.
on to the covenant. You're specifically wanting to speak to the covenant, right? Alison?
Yeah, the only question I had on the bylaws, you on raised, so.
Okay.
Okay, I've got one set of notes on one and then an on-table one, which I understood fixed some of the errors, but it doesn't seem to have. So I guess my first question is, do we have an undertaking from the applicant's lawyer that they will file this covenant once fourth reading is given?
I don't personally know.
Yeah.
So that's,
I mean,
You know where
I
he
don't,
lives.
yeah, I don't in so many words, no.
Well, that's a normal, standard thing.
so the applicant files the covenant, not the municipality.
Well, they're paying for it, right? But, yeah, okay.
We'll make sure that happens.
Yes.
Okay, then, I'm going to read off my notes because I can't see where anything's been changed between this one that we've got on table and what we.
I changed that, Allison, I changed the 4I to 4H, with the,
Okay.
based on your first email.
Okay, well, there's a whole bunch more typos. Okay, so that's the only change you made?
Yeah.
Okay, so I had a quick look through my binder, and unless I missed, do we ever actually see a draft housing agreement?
No, you haven't.
So we have no idea what a housing agreement might look like, and no idea on the timing of the delivery of the housing.
And I think we discussed this at a council level a few, that in March, that,
Unfortunately, the minutes are very brief, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't make any
yeah,
notes.
and I think we had that same discussion at that point in time, we left the staff. I said, boy, that sounds like a good idea.
I believe the intent was that the
Yeah,
phasing of the affordable housing would be in conjunction with the
well,
phasing of
there's
the
an agreement in,
development.
a clause in here, and I'm just not quite clear. Okay, now, under F,
What number, Allison?
I'm on page 2, in the whereas recital, capital F. The subdivided building lots surrounding it are intended to be served by the Cove Bay water system, which will require an expansion of the Cove Bay water system. Following terms of the municipality's local service area expansion policy. Well, the local service area expansion policy really just deals with the amount of money to be paid. It doesn't deal with how to expand. That's all in the local government act, or the community charter rather. So I think the wording is very, but it does talk about including the provision, but I guess I'm back to, and maybe it's the luck of the draw for the applicant, because we could decide not to expand. I don't understand, in reading the community charter, it only talks about creating a local service area. So does the community charter, when it says for a municipally initiated one, you have to have the assent of the electors, is it only meaning the electors in the newly expanded area, or is it all the electors in the Cove Bay water system?
I think that's a question we'd have to ask our solicitor who drafted this.
I know, I'm not happy with the drafting, given the number of typos and mistakes that are in this, which is.
I have enough faith in his understanding of the community charter to
Okay.
trust what's there.
All right, well, that's fine, and it's the applicant's loss, not ours, so. Now, what do we mean on page 3? Construction of trails shown in dots surrounding Grafton Lake per BIM's Parks Department.
Specs.
Is it to the standards of the BIM Parks Department? Is that what that means? Or is it BIM
Sorry, where are
Parks?
you, Bill?
I'm on page 3 of the covenant, 1C for Charlie.
Thank you.
Per BIM's Parks Department, except for the portions of the trails in phase 2 and 3. But it says to the reasonable requirements of the municipality's Parks Department, which is what I'm thinking deals with the construction. So does this mean they're not gonna be as per the dots and the Parks Department can change them? Or are they words that I don't think should even be there?
I mean, I would say probably that per BIM's department could be taken out and just left to the reasonable requirements of the municipality's parks department.
So, Tyler, do you want to keep track of deletions for BIM's Park Department? And then in D for dog, in phase 2, it says, and sufficient parking to support the foregoing purposes, to support the foregoing purposes. So I think you might want to delete the second foregoing
We
purposes.
were just really enthusiastic about that one.
No, I was late
It's the
at
same,
night.
it's the same in 3C,
And
and
then you
it
get
doesn't
the-
change the meaning, so.
So 3C, well, it's still, we're going to
Yeah,
authorize
no, this is.
signing
good.
a document full of
Good.
typos.
Thank you, Allison.
Sorry.
And then-
Sorry, could we back up to 1C?
Yeah.
What were you suggesting there?
Well, I don't
as a
see why
revision?
that first per BIM's Parks Department is there.
So the suggestion what
Because the
Daniel had
map, the
was.
dots on the map,
How about I
are
do
referring a map for the location.
One at a time.
So construction of
Please.
trails shown in dots surrounding Grafton Lake, except for the portion of trails in phase 2 and 3, to the reasonable requirements of the municipality's park department, is how it will end up reading. It
Okay.
was just redundant.
Or throwing confusion in as to where the trails are gonna be. So in 3C, where municipal water storage and distribution infrastructure, including utility lines, and sufficient parking to support the foregoing purposes, and again, to support the foregoing purposes. But the parking is all in area 4, which is in phase 1. So I think it just has to end at utility lines in the whole of the next.
So is there some potential parking for visitors to the nature?
So that's for the nature reserve.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the fullness of time, you want to be able to put in sufficient parking for the purposes.
Okay, so we're not talking about parking around the distribution plant, we're talking about parking
All those purposes.
around the
Anywhere
nature
in that
reserve.
area.
Okay, all the purposes, all right, that's fine. Delete that, but we'll delete the second to
Yeah.
support the foregoing purposes.
And if we're doing a typo around 1A, with an extra the in 0.8 hectare.
The minimum size of, or,
Oh, that for,
yeah,
yeah.
gotcha.
I picked that one up in my written notes and didn't pick it up on, so take out the that. And then in the next page, under the now therefore this agreement witnesses that, just a clarification on the subdivision approval process. It says the property shall not be subdivided and the municipality and its approving officer shall not be required to accept a final application for subdivision, except in accordance with this covenant. Now, does that mean the actual application, or does it mean the issuance of the PLR, or
So-
approval of the?
So the final application is after PLR. So in terms of somebody gets the PLR and they submit their application for subdivision, then they're submitting
Okay,
the full
so
batch of everything.
they can require all the other normal things, but to the extent that there's covenants, if they ask for something that isn't covered by the covenant and they want to throw it out, they can throw it out in the subdivision application. Is that what that clause is meaning?
They meaning
That's
municipality.
what I,
The subdivision approving officer?
Yeah.
Well, it just says its approving officer should not be required to accept.
No, because
Yeah.
you can't
Okay.
federally approve it.
Yeah. So, but they are fettered by the covenant.
Yes.
Yes.
Can,
Yeah.
for maybe some people in the audience don't remember, but I can't remember what PLR stands for.
Sure.
I know what it is, but I can't remember the wording.
It's a preliminary layout review.
Thank you,
Yes.
layout.
Okay. And then the statutory right-of-ways,
Sorry, give me numbers.
Start
oh,
with
the next,
section.
the next one, number 3.
Sorry?
Number 3.
Yeah, I guess, when we did the master covenant for Calma Point many years ago, all the subsequent documents that were going to be signed at various phases were all attached to the master covenant. And I think a right-of-way is a pretty simple statutory, a statutory right-of-way is a pretty simple document. So why does it take 2 months to do it in D? If the document's all ready to go, why
Because we
would
have
it?
to survey, we still have to survey. You're asking about the December 20th date?
No, I'm asking about the difference in D for dog, April 30th to July 1st. Because I think the timing is fairly critical, and it would be, I don't sort of see why these things aren't drafted and attached now, so they're ready to go when they're ready to be issued, so the timing isn't an issue, or we actually know what they're like, because it's gonna have to come back to council for approval to execute and all that stuff, right?
Not one that's a conditional of a subdivision.
That's for the-
But it's not a condition of a subdivision under D for dog.
Yeah, so then it would.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to come.
Well, yeah, it would have to come to council under D for dog. So I guess one of my things would be, I think that should be, and I don't sort of understand why there isn't just one statutory right away for the whole thing, for the construction and the site prep. If we choose not to carry on with the construction, then the right away becomes null and void.
What I will say is a lot of this was multiple meetings with the developer and Daniel and I to get to consensus. And that's one reason you will find typos in it, because we were at it right till Friday afternoon. Because we wanted to see this adopted in this council too. So are there little typos in it? For sure.
Yeah, okay,
And-
but changing this timing and why we don't have the agreement, okay. Okay, as part of phase 1, construct access roads
So
to
could I
water.
just confirm,
Oh, I'm-
could I just confirm, we're not making any changes?
I would
in
not
that
want
I
to
section?
make any changes
No.
to that.
No,
That was
yeah,
Leave it
as
as
a
it
result
stands.
of multiple discussions.
Thank you.
Yeah.
okay, now, in my email, Daniel, I made a reference to a conflict between, as part of phase 1,
Which number are you?
I'm in 4B. As part of phase 1, construct access road to the water treatment plant as shown to the reasonable requirements have been. And then somewhere else in here, it talks about sharing costs, the water treatment plant and the utilities.
That's a different thing.
So one reference is sort of road
For the
standards or
road.
requirements.
There we go, the very last line under water, E, on the next page, 5E phasing. The owner and the municipality agree that the sharing of costs to build roads and extend power to the water treatment plant shall be mutually agreed upon by the parties. Yeah, in this previous clause, it said they're gonna construct the road.
It says
Doesn't
that-
say about costing though, it's just timing.
It's just a
Sharing of costs, and it says as part of phase 1, the owner shall, as part of phase 1, construct access road to the water treatment plant as shown on the development plan.
It's not contradictory. One says construct and the other deals with costs.
But when one constructs, one usually pays for the cost.
And-
No.
Not unless it's specified.
But the other point is that the second point is road and power.
Yeah, but,
So if we
but,
did put
okay,
in
so
the
I
power
just want
line,
to
they
clarify
put in
that there's
road,
no conflict.
there. I
The
don't think there
understanding is that they're gonna construct it, but under 5E, we might have to pay for something.
Correct.
Is that your understanding?
Mhm.
Okay. And then the neighborhood park under F, I'm in 4F. Oh no, sorry, hang on, let's go back. 4C and 4D. Which phase are they to be done in? It doesn't say, the others all say as part of phase 1 or as part of phase 2, they don't say anything.
So a few of them go across each phase. So I think initially when this was drafted, it would say in phase one, you do the area of one in phase one, and in phase two, and then in the latest round, it went back to, so on page 3 is where it talks about what happens in each phase. It says this happens in phase one, this happens in phase two. So it's okay rather than put in each trail, say the trail's in phase one, you're gonna build in phase one, the trail's in phase two, you're gonna build in phase two, and so on.
Phases.
Okay.
So what are named as phases are things that happen distinctly in that phase. So say the land, the material plan is in phase one, it's not in
Okay, so
phase
the
two.
key word is concurrent with the subdivision of each relevant phase.
Yeah.
And then under the neighborhood park,
This is F,
Which is what
yeah,
number?
after
for
Fred.
F.
Yeah, they're actually gonna build the neighborhood park or just dedicate the land, I'm not clear.
Ah. So this is dedicate neighborhood park to
Yeah.
the requirements of the Parks Department.
Mhm.
But is it to construct a park, or, I mean, dedicating doesn't need anyone's permission, it just says you shall dedicate the park. So why is it dedicate the park to the reasonable requirements?
Yeah.
Is there work to be done on the park, or is it simply a dedication?
Well, it's a neighborhood park, so one would assume there would be tree clearing and picnic benches and all sorts of other stuff.
Or is it just the
Or is it just
area?
the raw?
Okay, that's a, then no,
I mean, that's my understanding, is sort of developed just to a limited extent a neighborhood park, but you're right, it's not captured in the covenant.
So, create neighborhood park, dedicate and create?
Dedicate and
or
develop a neighborhood park
dedicate and
within
develop,
phase
but-
two.
I've got to cut into the meeting for a moment. I'm switching over to committee of the whole, and I'm asking John Reed. Do you understand what we're talking about here, John? So is the intent for your people to actually construct something in the neighborhood park?
Yeah, we will create a neighborhood park to the reasonable requirement of the municipality.
Okay.
It's in our best interest to have a swing to play on in the neighborhood,
Gotcha.
so as much as we're not leaving a natural park.
Okay,
So
thank
we
you.
put in dedicate and create.
Can we insert the words and create then?
Whatever you need.
And develop,
Okay.
Dedicate, develop,
And
and
develop.
develop.
yeah.
Dedicate and develop. Okay. Okay,
Dedicate and develop a neighborhood park.
okay, I'm gonna go back to our meeting now. Okay,
Thank you.
And the same comment would go with dedicate neighborhood park shown in phase 3 area.
Yeah.
yes, exactly.
That's under D. Now, H is now the reference that should be being referred to under D for dog
Yeah.
in affordable housing.
Correct.
So again, are we comfortable that we're gonna get some affordable housing in each phase with this agreement under D? Or is there?
Yes, including complying with any applicable housing agreement for each phase.
Yeah, okay, so we're gonna get housing for each phase.
Hmm.
And then, the water, I guess, was the only issue about the expanding of the Cove Bay. Can we actually say that we will expand the Cove Bay water system?
Sorry, where are you at now?
I'm in E,
E.
but again,
5E.
it's not a concern for us, because if we can't legally do it, then it's a problem for the owner. And then I guess my only other question is under the phasing 5.2. The municipality shall act reasonably in respect of any request by the owner to modify or partially discharge this covenant to reflect any alteration of the size or number of phases accepted by the municipality in accordance with section 5, including retiring additional security covenant. And that all makes total sense. And then there's a sentence, which looks like it was added on, which seems to contradict that says, for greater certainty, the municipality acknowledges the owner may, in its sole discretion, alter the size and number of phases set out in the phasing plan. So they're sort of contradictory statements.
No,
You don't think so?
I don't think so. I think that the developer has to be able to say, hold it, we were gonna do this in 5 phases, it's gonna be 9 now, because we can only sell 5 lots a year, right, or something like that. And you can't come back and say, no, you're gonna have to call it this phase, and you're gonna have to do that. I think giving them the right to change their phasing doesn't hurt
But isn't
us
that what
at
the
all.
first sentence does? The municipality shall have reasonable in any request by the owner to modify, reflect any alteration in the size or number of phases.
Well, okay, but what we're saying here, reasonably in respect to modifying, partially discharging the covenant, right? And so what we're saying.
No, it says to modify or partially discharge.
Okay, so the covenant has to change to accommodate the rephasing. So we're giving the developer the right to change the phasing at their whim,
Okay, so,
and that we will reasonably alter the terms and assignment funds and all that sort of stuff in conjunction with that. And so we're not trying to stop them from changing their phasing.
did you get a law degree at some point?
Allison, what's your concerns? with
Well,
that?
they seem to me to be contradictory.
I think they
That we had
offer the
to
developers
agree,
some comfort.
but that they, and I just, I mean, I'm not, to me, it's just we're giving them the total ability to change the order entirely.
Okay.
Maybe change the timing of getting the affordable housing and all that sort of stuff, so.
The reason it seems a little contradictory is only because the last sentence where it starts with greater
Yeah.
certainty, which could be eliminated, it's not necessary, it could have begun the municipality acknowledges, etc., and then go on with the second sentence. It makes
Yeah,
absolutely
the
no
ordering
difference, it would
is
just be a
not-
little clearer had
Yeah.
the first sentence was the last sentence, we just reversed the two sentences, it would just be more fluid, as it is, it makes perfectly good sense.
Okay, so
Uh,
that's
it's
all I
just
wanted
requires
everybody
letter
to, I
interpretation.
wanted to clarify, and I wanted to make sure that everybody understood that we could end up with
Daniel,
the
did you
phase
have
that has the affordable housing in it, way of name.
So I guess I would say that one, so when we talk about the different phases, it always talks about that the affordable housing follows, so we would expect that they altered the phasing, that the affordable housing is still delivered in each phase as appropriate. But I know the developer has my concerns, but when you get to phase 2 and 3, it gets more uncertain. So phase 1 is fairly certain, phase 2
Yeah.
and phase 3, and phase 2B is broken down into further phases. And so we wanted to sort of that outline that potential may come, that it's sort of broken into 3 phases, but it wouldn't be more than that.
The big thing here, though, is I think that when the developer says, I am going to change the phasing, which is possibly necessary, the municipality shall act reasonably in requiring additional security, covenants, rights of way, and other charges. So all it is saying that if he changes his phasing, we can't say, well, you're screwed. We have to act reasonably. That's, I think, the intent of the condition.
Well, I'm reading it slightly differently. They get carte blanche to decide what the phasing is going to be, and we have to go along with it.
Yes, but we can ask for additional security, we can have other change of covenants, we can put other charges. We can do things, but when we do all of those things to them, in response to their change of phasing, we have to act reasonably.
Well, I'm still not totally comfortable. So the process to develop this covenant was our lawyers drafted it, their lawyers reviewed it, and then we went back and forth. And we've been working on this up until Friday night, late, from the looks of it.
Afternoon of Friday.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there will be one more sober look at this before you actually sign.
You betcha. I promise.
Okay?
So is that it, Allison, any more?
I think I dropped them all.
So may I just confirm them in section 5, the second clause, that it is remaining as written?
That is my understanding, no
Yeah.
changes.
Okay, so the changes were to delete for BIM's Parks Department in 1C on page 3, to delete the duplication in Phase 2D to support the foregoing purposes, and the same in Phase 3C.
You missed the one in 1A, we removed the word
So
the.
remove the extra word "the" in 1A. And in 4,
F.
where's the reference where we
F and G.
Yeah, dedicate and develop.
dedicate and develop in 4,
F and G.
F and G, and change the cross-referencing in 5D from 4I to 4H.
That's done.
Yeah.
Well, that was done already.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess because we have taken out an offer the third time, somebody actually literally has to read this sucker. Go ahead, Elsa.
The council authorized the mayor and council to sign,
There, and-
right to go, this is the part, I read all this, right?
Yeah, sorry, it's not the mayor and council to sign the covenant. It's mayor and CAO.
That's
Mayor and
correct.
CAO.
Yeah,
right.
that,
To execute the covenant.
Okay.
Daniel, should that be before the readings of the bylaw or after?
After.
can I do the
I was
bylaws
gonna
first?
say before, because you're adopting it with the voluntary contribution.
With the
Yeah,
covenant,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
all right. That council authorized the mayor and CAO to execute the covenant regarding the voluntary contribution from the Grafton Lake Lands Project to be registered on the title of the subject properties. That bylaw 439-217 be cited as Bowen Island Municipality Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw number 439-2017 be considered and finally adopted.
Isn't it
Reconsidered?
reconsidered? Yeah, we should have reconsidered.
Thank you.
Be reconsidered.
Reconsidered and finally adopted. That bylaw 440-2017 cited as Bowen Island Municipality Land Use Bylaw number 57-2002 Amendment Bylaw number 440-2017 be considered and finally reconsidered and finally adopted.
Okay, seconder. Okay, any discussion before I call the question? All those in favor? And that is passed unanimously.
Now we got the other resolution.
Yeah, I have another one. And looking for, just that council directs staff to bring amendments to bylaw 439 to reflect the reference to ALR, changes back to a future council meeting.
ALR changes, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
3 and 4.
The
Hold on a minute. So Tyler has worded it that with amendments, removing sections 3 and 4.
Those are the two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we want to specify regarding the ALR?
Regarding
bylaws?
Yeah, just so we all remember what that's about.
Okay,
Is that 3 and 4? Okay.
so it's moved by Sue Ellen, seconded by Maureen. Any discussion before I call the question? All in favor? Passed unanimously. And with that, there being no further business, I take it, we are adjourned.
Hey.
Thank you.